Well, Paul Heyman, first off, just want to say thank you for taking the time out this morning and having a little chat with us. We are talking with Paul Heyman, of course, one of the most recognizable figures in professional wrestling, manager, advocate for Brock Lesnar and so many other people throughout the years. And Paul, one of the things I'm always interested in as a wrestling fan myself is how people actually got into the wrestling business, how you got into the industry. And one of the things I realized with you is I guess we have something in common that you actually at one point were a radio guy. Is that right?
Well, I was a radio guy when I was in college because I didn't feel like going to classes, so I would get credit for doing college radio.
Right.
So I don't know if I could really put on my resume that I was a radio guy. I just didn't like the curriculum that was being offered at the time.
All right. Fair enough. And I think there's probably 90% of the people in radio feel the exact same way. And that's why we're still here. But one of the other really cool things is how you transitioned into really getting into the wrestling industry, because I know there's so many wrestling families and people that grew up with it and had some kind of connection. You really got in, if I'm correct, through photography, right?
Yeah. I was, well, I just never wanted to be one of the crowd.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to be a voyeur. I wanted to be a participant. My parents would take me to movies when I was a little kid, and I couldn't stand sitting in a theater. I was like, okay, I'd like to be behind the camera. I'd like to produce or direct this. It was just the way I'm wired. So I just didn't want to sit in the crowd. I wanted to actively be involved in the inner workings of the industry. So when I was 13, 14 years old, I BS my way into Madison Square Garden and ingratiated myself to a lot of people who were in the industry at the time, to the point where they brought me into the industry because they figured they weren't going to get rid of me.
It's impressive. So really the perseverance pays off. Is moral of the story?
The moral of the story is, if you have a dream, you go after it.
Yeah.
And you do it until you live that dream. And then while you're living that dream, keep on dreaming and go after those dreams as well. You only live once. And I know that's a big expression today with kids far younger than I am, but you only live once. And I'm not going to look back on my life and go, gee, I wish I would have pursued that with more passion or with more intensity or more energy. I go after my dreams. And when I start to live out a dream, I'm not limited to just one dream. I have a lot of dreams, and I'm going to go after them with every bit of passion and intensity that I can, because I'm never going to be satisfied, nor should I want to be. Again, you got one trip on this planet. You got to make it worth it.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think you hit it nail on the head. So another question for you, Paul. Before we look forward, I want to look back a little bit and have hopefully a fun question for you. You've had, over the past years, you've had all these different iterations of the Dangerous Alliance. So my question would be, now, if you formed a Dangerous Alliance now, let's say 3 people, who would you put in it if you could pick?
Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns.
There you go. Quick and to the point.
And just so I could have a percentage of his stock earnings, Vince McMahon.
All right. I can't argue with that either. So, Paul, another question. I've got one of my best friends is also a diehard wrestling guy and has grown up with it. He wanted me to ask you this specific question because back in the day, you used to carry around the big phone. And a lot of different managers use different things in the past, whether it's canes or briefcases or megaphones. The phone now is too small to really be of any assistance to you. So what would you bring to the ring now if you had to bring something with you?
My intelligence, my experience, my savvy, my 34 years on the top of this industry. It's all I need to bring out to when Roman Reigns called me the wise man, he revealed to the public the secret weapon that made him the tribal chief. This is why the term manager is so antiquated. It's so draconian in the industry today, because back in those days there was a cane or a briefcase or a megaphone or a phone, and today that just doesn't apply. Technology has rendered everything obsolete in terms of bringing an equalizer out to the ring when you're in the corner of a WWE superstar. So now, if you're not bringing your street smarts and your intelligence, you're out of the industry real fast.
Okay. Well, and I think it's extremely obvious that you have been the master at doing that, of bringing the intelligence and bringing the savvy ringside. Your career and what you've done with the people you've advocated for has definitely shown through with that. So let's take a look now at the future. So we have WrestleMania 38 coming up April 2nd and 3rd at AT&T Stadium, Arlington, Texas. And that road to WrestleMania runs through Charlottesville, Virginia. We've got a show here just 1 week before WrestleMania on March 27th. Can you give us any insight as to what kind of things we need to expect for WrestleMania and shows leading up to it?
Well, this is everyone's last opportunity to shake things up before WrestleMania. And those who follow WWE in the past few years will be cognizant of the fact that shaking things up is exactly the formula that WWE has put in front of the public for the past half decade to a decade. So since this is the final opportunity for a Roman Reigns or the Usos or Charlotte Flair or Sasha Banks or Drew McIntyre or the New Day to shake things up, to pivot the way WrestleMania is going to be presented, one would think this could be one of the most historic live events ever presented in the history of WWE, because something is bound to happen that will affect WrestleMania just 1 week later.
All right. That sounds mysterious and interesting at the same time. So moral of the story is, if right now you haven't made plans to go to this show on March 27th, you need to go ahead and get your tickets ready to go right now, because anything, and more than likely something, is going to happen.
Oh, I would practically guarantee it.
All right. Well, Paul, I don't want to take up all of your time this morning. I greatly appreciate you calling in and having a chat with me. And again, as a wrestling fan, this is truly an honor for me to be able to have a time to sit down and chat with you. I greatly appreciate it.
The pleasure was all mine.
All right, Paul. Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Thank you.